Hello, welcome everyone.
Hi.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi. Feel free to unmute yourself and say hello. You can say your name and where you're from as well. We'll get started in just a minute or two.
Okay, I'm Dora Fried. I am from Buenos Aires, Argentina.
Hi, Dora.
Hi, Alex. How are you?
I'm well, thank you.
I'm Suzanne from Berlin. Good afternoon. For me, it's 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yes, same as Giacomo. You're both in the
Yeah,
afternoon.
yes. For us, it's good afternoon. For others, good morning.
For me, it's good morning. I'm in Boise, Idaho in the United States.
Hi,
Kendra
welcome.
Lutz. Thank you.
I'm Dan Saracen. I'm in Davenport, Iowa.
Hi, welcome. And Louise, do you want to say hello and where you are?
Hi everyone, I'm Louise and I'm in Ireland.
Hi, welcome. And I believe we have Sally and Dan, maybe. Hello, you can unmute and say hi. Welcome too. So we will get started. So welcome everyone to this Taos Conversation hosted by the Taos Institute. I'm Alex Arnold, the executive consultant for the Taos Institute. And just a few words about what we do. We are a nonprofit virtual organization. We promote social constructionist, relational, appreciative ideas and practices. And we do so through events like these, so free events online for everyone to join. We have workshops and courses and several books in our World Share book series that is free. So many books, over 90 books are available on our website and free for downloading, so in many languages, so feel free to spread the word about that. And most recently, we have created an online community, the Taos Institute Commons, and this is probably where you all saw this event or registered for this event. So we encourage you to really make this your community. We have over 1,600 members from around the world, and it's there for you to share your resources, your announcements, to connect with each other, find people near you. So maybe you can meet in person. So really a platform for everyone to come together, including these events. So I don't want to say much more. I will introduce Giacomo Chiara. Thank you so much for hosting this conversation today. And Giacomo will talk about his research, and I will let you take it from here.
Oh, thank you very much, Alex, and thank you very much for coming here to see it. It's afternoon for us. I'm in Italy actually, but so good afternoon for the people stay in Europe, and good morning for other people from USA. So it's very pleasure for me. So I don't prepare any slide because this conversation is a very informal way. And it's very pleasure for me to share with you about my research. I finished my second PhD in University of Padua the last year, at December. And I remember when I started my second PhD, my only focus about how it's possible to do a research in a generative way and using the social construction approach in human trafficking field. Why this field? I discovered this field generally don't have any research from the psychologists. So generally, the mainstream psychology use the victimization languages, trauma languages when talk about the victimization people. And I worked a lot with the human survivor trafficking, human victim of trafficking as a therapist. When I finished the first PhD, I worked a lot in different places in Sicily, in Italy, in Veneto, northeast of Italy, in immigration field with asylum seeker, with human with this terrible experience. So in the immigration field as a therapist. So I remember one day when in therapy, one session of therapy, one woman said to me about the languages, about the operator, about the system. The people talk about her also about victims. All the time use this term, victims. And in my mind, I think why they use all the time these terms, victims, and not maybe survive it. The human trafficking is finished now. They are safe now. Why we not change the languages, first of all? If we accept the social construction perspective and we accept that about the languages, we create a reality as suggest Wittgenstein. So it's necessary, first of all, to change the languages. So to create new reality. So my interest is about how it's possible to change the languages inside the human trafficking system. In my case, in Veneto, there is a big human system called now Navigare, but when I did my research, the name was Nave. It's a network about anti-trafficking system. And I proposed my research about inside my second PhD, and I remember that all the psychologists worked in this system said me, "Oh, I don't know, it's not possible to do a research with this woman because it's very dangerous. Because if you interview this woman, the dangerous is the trauma victimization is amplified this generation, so it's very dangerous." So why? I asked with myself, why? If you maybe know about the narrative therapy, the Michael White work about the trauma, you know this is only one line about the trauma. It's possible to co-create new narrative with the people. So I propose. I remember I spent I think. I think maybe 6 months or 8 months to talk with them about the generative research with not only with human, not only with these people, also with the organization. So in this case, I use a appreciative inquiry with the organization. But so I have it was not easy to organize this research. Other point of view is about the psychology. Generally, in the psychology, when talking about the trauma, we have three main approach about the trauma. The cognitive behavioral therapy talked about the trauma. If you see, for example, the APA indication about the trauma work, narrative exposed therapy, cognitive therapy, or psychodynamic approach, there isn't one generative approach that we can use when talking, and we use as a therapist with the people have suffered, for example, human trafficking experience. Maybe a little about the narrative exposed therapy, but if you consider the Michael White work, I think it's necessary we change some aspect. Another point is that I use my reflection is about the post-traumatic growth. In literature, there is a very interesting point. It's a very interesting concept. A little think maybe is about a mainstream, but if we think about this point, the author about the post-traumatic growth said that this experience about the trauma, after the trauma, it's possible that the people find the resource, the strengths, about it's possible to talk about the possibility, the future, about the future. So in this way, we co-construct a new narrative. If in the therapy, I talk with them about the future, about the spirituality, about the family, about, I don't know about what, about the resource of the people, maybe it's possible to a little co-construct together new narrative that maybe construct and contrast with the anti-trafficking and not only victimization narrative. So I think in my research it's very important to share with my participant this aspect, all this aspect. Another point was my reflection, my reflexivity. So I am a white person. I am Italian. I am also I'm a therapist. Now actually I'm a researcher. So if you reflect about the power dynamics with the participant, it's important to negotiate with my participant, because generally my participant was black woman, power, don't have power, human trafficking experience, so African woman. So the power is totally incredible. So it is one point necessary to negotiate in the conversation. So about this, I use also my experience. I talked them my experience as a therapist in the immigration field. So about this, another point, if we before to enter a little in the discourse of human trafficking, and we accept the social construction as perspective. If we accept this, it's necessary to reflect about 2 points. The first point is about I love this point, about the concept from Gergen about the multi-being. If we consider the person about the human being is a relational being, but is a multi-being. Gergen wrote, the person is essentially constituted then by a multiplicity of relationship. It's fantastic because some relationship leave us with a resource or potential, other less no. So if we within the anti-trafficking system, the relationship on the trafficking person confirm the image of the victim and share the narrative of the organization, then the person have a little experience, little chance to being different. So it's necessary in generative review, in general research, we generate a new form of relationship about the researcher and the participant, and maybe in this conversation share also resource strengths, different point of view. Another very important point also suggested by Gergen is about the relational agency. I talked this about another conference before this, but it's very important point. And this is a very difficult point in the mainstream psychology. Generally, in mainstream psychology, talk about the intentionality. The intentionality about the person is inside of my mind. So the person have an idea and then go on about this idea and then have a behavior about that confirm this idea. So the person have an intentionality inside this my mind. The very important suggestion by Gergen is no, the intention, and not only by Gergen, also John Schotter suggests this idea about the relational agency. It's a very potential concept. It's about the idea of intentionality and intelligence agency co-create together in the relationship continually. New form of intentionality, new form of agency in different relationship. So if I have, for example, very different relationship, I have potentially image of myself and maybe discover myself in different relationship. So this is a very potential point. So not in my mind, but in the relationship. At the same time, in the anti-trafficking system, when the person finished this terrible experience and then enter this anti-trafficking system, not only in Italy, but in general, and the people express only one victimization narrative, only talk about the past, or talk about the trafficked experience, or maybe the trafficked migration experience, and don't talk about the future, don't talk about the resource, don't talk about other. It's possible in this all the relationship within the anti-trafficking system, the people don't have any possibility to express different agency. So in the generative research, it's necessary that in this case the researcher have as a mirror. I used in the title about this Taos Conversation, relationship, mirrors, and narrative. If we accept this, all is relationship, all can be a mirrors, all we co-create in this relationship new narrative. So the researcher within the conversation with the participant, we co-create new narrative. And we talk about resource and not about the trauma victimization. So other point, and with this, I think it's important. It's also important to accept not only in therapy, also in research, in generative research, accept the narrative victimization, okay, create a space for this, but then create a new relational space in which is possible to create new narrative. So this point is very important. Other point we use in my PhD research is about the social construction principle about the research. So the research, generative research, could be relational and collaborative with all participants. Other point very important is useful and generative, but useful for who? Useful for the participant, useful for the researcher, generally useful for the system, for the participant, not only for me as a researcher. And engaging in complexity, so including the research, all point of view about this, and in the multiplicity. About this, for example, I remember my research purpose was to co-construct a new narrative that contrast with the passive and victimization view in people who have experienced trauma as trafficking. So about this, I co-construct my research question as, in this case, followed how is possible to deconstruct the passive victimization view of people who are combating the anti-trafficking system. It is possible to give voice to new relational narrative that contrast with this victimization vision, and what are the most functional psychosocial process to build transformative process resilience and post-traumatic growth. For this, I think a 3-point research question is very important to accept the first of all discourse about proposed by Gergen, so a multiplicity of the self, so multi-being, so the person as a multi-being, and other concept that I talked before about relational agency. This point is very crucial point for all the generative research, because if we accept this, we use after we co-construct with in the generative research the research question, and the focus of the research question is about how it will possible co-construct together with my participant. This is very important, and I'm no expert. For this point, for example, I love the position by Anderson about the not knowing expert position, also not only in therapy but also in research, because I repeat again, I'm Italian, I'm the white man, so I need necessary to negotiate with my participant the power. The power also could be in the middle, not in my position. So about the research context is about in Veneto, northeast of Italy. Maybe you know Venezia, Padova, and other important cities in Veneto. There is a lot of community system about the anti-trafficking community, and I work with not only with the women and men survivor of trafficking, but I worked a lot also with operators, social operators, with psychologists, with case manager that organize and managing all the time of these people, and the cultural mediators. So sometimes this person don't talk about a lot the languages of Italian. So sometimes the people talk also in English, PJ English, for example, by a Nigerian woman, or if the people came from other part of the world. About the method is very important because I talked before about the appreciative inquiry. Why the appreciative inquiry? Appreciative inquiry, maybe you know better about mine, but is a generative method, an action method in which we co-construct a resource. The focus is about the resource of the people, the resource of the organization. So we don't discover nothing. We co-construct something with the participant. So in a circular process, if you know about this literature, about this method, so with these 4 or 5 phases about the appreciative inquiry, in which we construct with the participant some aspect, and if in the end the result is to have a possibility to see, to have a new narrative, new vision about the organization, but not only about the organization, also about the people. The new narrative about the person, in this case, the participant. So in this case, for example, I carry out 4 focus group with cultural mediator, social worker, case manager, and psychologist. And I remember it's very curious anecdote about the psychologist I talked about before. First of all, the psychologist with that they adopted a different approach, not social constructing approach from this case, but so psychodynamic approach, cognitive behavior approach. And they talked also the trauma. The only concern was the trauma. So I spent 6 months with them about, no, the research is not about the trauma. The research is about, include maybe this narrative of the victimization in the big relational space in which the people have a possibility to discover different multiple self, different multi-being, in different relationship, not all in this way. And I carry out also 20 interview with the women and men survivor of trafficking. Participants, I use generally the women, for example, is have different type of occupation, sexual labor, forced marriage. For example, I remember 5 about forced marriage by Bangladesh. Maybe you know this experience. You know, very young people, young people have a very terrible experience to forced marriage, and then have this construction and exploitation in not only in Italy but in Europe. So these people don't have a power. Then after I pressure to read you the one express about my participant. Different nationality: Morocco, Nigeria, Bangladesh, Romania, Moldova. So very different place of the world. Another point is literally is my reflexivity. For to work on myself about my reflexivity, I worked a lot by my team. My team was in this case the active researcher. I carry out a focus group and an interview, but I have my supervisor Alberta Contarello, University of Padua, another my colleagues Diego Maioli from University of Padua, and Celiani Camargo Borges for Breda University, my supervisors and co-supervisor. And this team of research, I talked with them all the time about my position inside the research. When I finished one interview, I talked with them about, okay, I failed in this way. I felt myself in this way. Maybe this is the problem. So I talked about this, and I wrote autoethnography about my cultural thinking about the research. For me, I think the generative research, the positionality and the reflexivity about the research is very crucial point. Another point, very important, is about how we construct the focus group question, how we construct the interview question. I use my different position as a therapist and as a researcher with this. For example, I construct with my research team a different question referring to a principle of appreciative inquiry, of course, with the generative question, appreciative question, tech question, discover, dreams, design from appreciative inquiry. But in the construction of the question and prompts, reference was made to episodic view about the flick, the principle again of appreciative inquiry, and I use also 2 important suggestions by Check-in and Carl Tom: circular question and reflexive question. This type of question is very common in family therapy. I think it's a very generative way. Is very powerful. And also, with my research team, we decided to reflect about the item of post-traumatic inventory. So we reflect and we use some item and transform the sentence in a generative way. So, for example, it's about the resource. So we talk about me, about your resource, your dream, about the future, and don't use the scale of Likert or text, etc. So we use a narrative. We construct a narrative about this, about the relating to the other, about a new possibility, about a personal strength, about a spiritual change, about the pressure of life now, actually, not in the past. Maybe we construct in the past new narrative, but now we construct now. So then we use about the methodology. We use thematic analysis in different way, also in a generative way by Brown and Clark in this case. And I remember, for example, I want to read the result about the interview. I think it's very interesting about the resources, strengths, relations, feelings, future. For example, I appreciate to read this sentence by one participant by Bangladesh. In our country, if a husband beats their wife, the wife have to stay with this husband. You cannot divorce human, but yes, I am. I succeeded. I left him, and this is a great strength for me. So it's very, very important. If I feel power in this case, and we construct with this participant. This is possible new narrative, and not only the trauma narrative, the victimization narrative about the trafficked experience, or about, for example, the relation, or about the future. For example, another participant about the future family said this about from Moldova, sex trafficking. I don't know, but for sure in the future I would like to have a family that is as really clear, and then I would like a stable job, and I would like to help people, for example, children who have a problem, etc., etc., etc. So these people have is a people. It's not victims, only victims, or have a person with a problem, or use, for example, diagnosis for depression, or for post-traumatic growth, or it's people. If we consider in a generative research that these people have also have a resource, have a strengths, it's very important to co-construct with this. And I remember also at the end of the interview, I asked them to, if they have some aspect they suggest me about the research. And some of them suggest me useful aspect which they recommend in the interview. For example, I would say to have patience and to always pray. I always prayed when my life was difficult to, so it's important to ask other people if they pray, and then etc., etc., etc. Another very important, and I'm going to the conclusion, then maybe we go to a discussion, is very, very important for me, because, oh my God, this is very important, is the feeling in conversation. So maybe I think I thought a lot about this. It's feeling, my feeling. And for example, John Schott wrote a lot about the social poetics about this point. During the conversation, the interview, some unexpected moments took place. For example, one participant said me, we felt together a feeling of freedom. Now, the participant said me, now what I feel is freedom. Yes, freedom. Me. Are you free? Participant, yes, exactly. Me. Thank you for sharing this. Living and feeling freedom. Participant, thank you. In that moment, I'm feeling together freedom. If you consider this experience, this woman by trafficking is an important point. Another participant said to me, participant, ask me if I'm happy. Me, are you happy? The participant smile. Yes, now I am certain, but there are moments when sometimes I lose hope and become very sad, and I never want to see myself sad. So thanks for this interview. I realized what I am capable of, and for what I want to do. I don't want like to, but I want to do. Fantastic. Another participant said to me, don't give up, to move on with this interview without a woman, without a participant. Or finally, another participant said to me, thank you for this interview, because anyone asked me about my future. Oh my God, why? Because all the focus about the anti-trafficking system and the psychology is about the past, it's about the trauma, and not about the future. I was, oh my God. So I'm going to the discussion during the conclusion. So the intention was to create a generative research. It's very useful the participant, first of all, and the generative new narrative and the new possibility of for all the generative system and the trafficking system. I use the appreciative inquiry, but not only this. I use also autoethnography for myself. I use the focus of narrative therapy for Michael White. I use also suggestions from family therapy. I use also, but for me, it's very important my reflexivity. And thank you for my research team in this case. And so I don't talk now about in very specific way about the result about the focus group, but open and relational space. In what all in this space is possible to co-construct new possibility. This is our focus in all focus group, also in the interview. So maybe the whole aspect is about the trust. Because some of these participants said that I have a difficulty to trust with others. This, for example, it is very common in literature. Actually, I'm doing a new research with the other people also in the anti-trafficking system about how possible to co-construct a relational trust. Because if we want and we accept the suggestion about the relational focus, if the trust is not my mind, no, I'm not a trusting person, but trust is a relational perspective, so a relational trust. Maybe in generative research, we can co-construct a relational trust. Maybe we generate new narrative about this. So I think, of course, there is different limits, of course, but there is not. We don't know about the generalization, but this is not the purpose about the research. Now our interest is about to co-construct together with the participant, with the system, about the new vision about the person, organization, and so on. So I don't know. I think it's better I finish now, conclude now, and maybe we open a discussion. And so thank you for your listening to me. So I think I don't know, Alex. Maybe I think we can open the discussion if you
Yes,
agree.
anyone can raise your hand or unmute, and we'll take questions. Shanti, you had a question?
You, Alex. I'm sorry I didn't introduce myself earlier. I had difficulty with the technology. Let me begin, Giacomo, if I may call you that, and if I pronounce it properly. Thank you for a very rich and deep introduction to the subjects that you have raised today. I will just take two out of them, and I'm sure other participants in the conversation will take us further. I was moved to think about the wider applicability of your work with anti-trafficking, anti-human trafficking. For example, yesterday I was reading about hyperactive attention deficit disorder for children. And I can see applicability of two of your points. One was the power relationship. You were talking about yourself as a white man working with largely Black women. With children of whatever race and gender, there is a particular power relationship with adults. And also, in the case of children, the relational narrative includes the parents as well, who bring their own perspectives to the discussion. I hear the label is not so much of victim, but of deficit. And there is great concern among people working with such children that they internalize the labels. You have given us empowering examples of women who refuse the label of victim, but many children are encouraged to maintain the label of deficit, attention deficit, for example, and attempts to make children understand their own processes sometimes leads them to use these sort of the medical language between themselves. Yeah. So I think here too, we need new languages, more human languages, and many of the ideas that you are talking about. Let me stop there. Thank you.
Oh no, thank you, Shanti. I think it's a very good point. Your suggestion. I think it's very important about the focus about the children in this case, children, parents. But if we have this focus, children, parents. If we work with this relationship all the time, we have a tension about the children and parents. If maybe we work individually, maybe we have a possibility to create a new relationship, and we can create a new narrative, for example, also with the children. In this case, I appreciate to answer your suggestion in my position as a therapist, because I remember one therapy with one Nigerian woman with this terrible experience, and I include in this section also the children. I remember, for example, we play with the children. So, but I use in this case the play and the role of the woman as a mother. So in this case, it is not all the victims, not all the survivor, not all but also the mother. In this case, open a new relationship about me and the mother, on and about the children. So I think it's a new possibility, new narrative about this. Which competence is necessary, and about the mother now in Italy, for example, in my case in Italy, by a Nigerian woman for to construct and to build a new very good practice for the children. Another point is about the institutional point and the power institution, because this woman, not only woman, also the men, have this terrible experience. They need the victimization narrative, because about this victimization narrative have opened the institutional acceptance about the to enter, the possibility to enter in the community, and have to for free 1 year, 2 years, have a possibility to stay in free in this community. So sometimes the very difficulty is to change this narrative, because the victimization narrative is very useful for them. First of all, about the institutional point, about the children for temptation or other deficit. No, do you use these terms, deficit? So in my case, I think my suggestion, I don't know, it's my thing. I think it's necessary just to change maybe these terms. I don't use sometimes these terms. Maybe this is very dangerous sometimes. And maybe if we change the context about the children play yourself, maybe this deficit is a powerful, it's a possibility, it's a resource. So why, for example, the psychologists have a focus all about the deficit? For me, it's necessary to change the languages all the time. I don't use, as Wittgenstein wrote, don't use for more time the same words. For example, deficit or trauma or other words, which is very dangerous for me. The point is about the relationship, about the children and parents. When there is a children, in my case, in therapy, it's very important to include in the session also the parent, also the children, and work also with them, of course. In the different way about the research. In the generative research, depends about the research process about the research question. In my case, for example, I don't have any research question about the children, but thank you for your suggestion. Maybe it's possible to reflect and focus on about how possible to construct a new action, maybe new context in which it's possible to create new narrative with the children. So thank you for your suggestion. I think it's very, very, very important. Thank you. Also about the relation, the power or relationship. Yeah, it's important. I worked a lot in the anti-trafficking system and the immigration field, because I don't know, maybe it's very little experience, but for me it's very meaningful, because I'm a Sicilian man, and when I was very young, I'm going to move myself in Veneto, in Padua, in the University of Padua, to study and stay. So from south of Italy to North Italy is a very inside the same country. Is a little migration. So the North Italy told me, okay, you are a South man, so you're immigration. Yeah, it's different about the African people came in Europe. So I know it's different, but I know the process. You stay alone. So I worked a lot with immigration because I feel myself a little migrant man. So, and I know about the power. I with Tom Strong, with the Ines and with other colleagues from Canada, with Ines Samdemand, with the Joaquin Gate, we wrote a very interesting paper about the power relationship in the intercultural dialogue in the formal therapy, which is necessary discuss and negotiation, have a negotiation with the participant all the time about the power. For example, my suggestion was, my concern was, there is a lot of the literature about the multicultural competence in psychology. So my concern was, what multicultural competence if we consider this in a social construction perspective? So we wrote about the, as I suggest, shorter about the social politics. We co-construct the competence in the conversation. And maybe if you, I don't know nothing about the immigration experience, I ask about this. I talk about myself. So and so on and so on. Thank you. I don't know if I answered, but I thank you again. I don't know. Say all the people say yes, Luis. Thank you.
Just to say, wow, I think it's extremely interesting to listen to your research. I could sit and ask lots of questions for the rest of it, but I won't take up all the time. Yeah, I'm really interested because I've also been working with mothers in addiction recovery, and so similar to pieces that you've spoken about, I think we've been trying to use appreciative inquiry. I've done interviews and a focus group, and now we're in a co-inquiry process together. And I suppose there's a couple of things that I've noticed, and I suppose I'd love to hear some of your thoughts around. I suppose one is, I suppose I'm just wondering how the women found the process that you did. I suppose something that I kind of found was women that were further along in their recovery seemed to be open to it, but some other women were in a space whereby I suppose it was almost like they were asking me, what do you want me to say? Or I suppose, and that was something that I kind of wondered about as well in terms of that power piece. So I suppose I'm just kind of curious, I suppose, firstly, around what they taught around that piece. I suppose I'm curious as well, like in terms of when we started our co-inquiry together, the first topic that they brought up that they wanted to talk about was trauma. And I suppose while I kind of wonder around, I suppose I do kind of wonder around that piece of not putting people in a victim. I also wonder about when people have maybe been in society where they feel they've been silenced, and this is something that's come up. How do we ensure that we don't silence people by closing down what they can talk about as well? So I'm just wondering if that's something that you've considered so that we keep that open in terms of the generativity and who they can be. And maybe there's times when they do feel they need to be a victim and talk about things, because for some people they have experienced stuff that is really like just unbelievable. So I suppose I just wonder about that as well. And yeah, I think the last thing I was just curious about was how you're sharing some of the narratives, or what that looks like, and whether the women have been part of that process, or how they feel about the narratives being shared, or what that kind of looks like. So.
Oh, thank you very much, Luis, for sharing your experience. In my case, I really thank you, my participant, because I share with them all the time, the research process. When I finish the research, I finish my interview, all the interview, I finish the focus group. I talk with them about the result. I talk with them about the feelings. I talk with them about my feelings, about all the time this possibility to create a new narrative. Maybe help me the fact as I am also a therapist, so I know it's important to you to have the important narrative space with the traffic experience. So it's very important, of course, but this there is not all the experience. This is one important experience. Yes, this is necessary to create a sense of meaning about this experience because it's important. But why all the psychology is about the trauma? Yes, it's a very dangerous narrative. Yes, I know, but it's necessary to create with these people sense and meaning about this, and then together share, maybe we can discover other narrative together about this. So it's a very important point because we have a possibility to create behind about this narrative. I think it's very important. So accept this narration, and then, oh wow, it's possible to create a new narrative in this case. So I think yes, in the generative narrative interview, it's important to share all the time as a play, no, all the time the impression, reflection, think about this. So yes, thank you. I totally agree with you, Luis. Thank you. Yeah. But generally, I'm sorry, Dora, go.
See, no, I was going to comment that we do generative research since the early 2000, 2008, 2009, you know, and we work in different contexts, mostly in the Colombian war context, okay, where the issue of being a victim and a survivor was very important. And something that we found is there are a few things I want to share with you, you know. First, you know, the integrity or the relationship between the type of dialogue or how do you conduct dialogue or how you participate in dialogue and the narrative that, you know, comes out of the dialogue. And I prefer, you know, to keep the integrity between dialogue and narrative. Okay, because it is through dialogue and your focus on dialogue, you know, where the new narratives will emerge. Okay, and people have made, you know, people that are part of this group, you know, have made very interesting distinctions between being a survivor and being a victim. And this is interesting because for some contexts, being a victim makes sense, at least in Colombia, you know, where you receive certain benefits for being a victim. Okay,
of course.
so making a fine distinction about the different experiences, it's very important in terms of considering the context in which you need to do that, okay?
Yeah.
The other thing that we found was that developing relationships between the groups of people that suffer violence was very important in terms of processing experiences and being together and collaborating, etc. And so one of the researchers, you know, has worked on a fine distinction between being a survivor and being a victim, and this was very important for the self-narrative, if you wish, and for developing, you know, the power to move on. And we did that with different focuses, you know, and we use something that it's a perspective and practice that we call generative perspective and practice. And there is a good, you know, wealth of knowledge, and there are people that work throughout Colombia in our group, you know, developing resources. And perhaps, you know, okay, I just wanted to share that with you. You know, there's a wealth of knowledge, and one of our faculties is going to Europe now to do his PhD, to complete his PhD in the Netherlands, and he has worked with communities and gay and lesbian groups as victims of the armed conflict. And perhaps, you know, we can connect in some way, because we have been working for, I would say, more than 15 years in generative research. Okay?
Yeah, of course. Thank you very much, Tenora. Of course, I appreciate your suggestion. Of course, yeah, you get in touch, and I think, yes. I'm very curious about, yeah. You mentioned before the terms of dialogue. Yes. For example, Gagan wrote one chapter, wrote transformative dialogue. So when the dialogue is transformative, so maybe in the same time generative. So yes, I push this reflection to a relationship to dialogue and the narrative. Yeah, transformative dialogue and narrative. Yes, totally agree with you. Yes,
it's an integrative process.
Yeah.
You know, from our perspective, you do the dialogue, you inquire, you learn, you self-reflect, and you also construct a narrative. And in my own experiences working with Michael White, you know, he was a great person in organizing and creating scenarios for dialogue to move, you know, in the direction of creating a new narrative. So I think that it makes sense to keep that in mind, you know.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
That was just a comment. Okay.
No, it's a very important comment. Thank you very much.
Okay.
I love this comment. Thank you.
Okay. I'm glad, you know. And I hope Leandro, who is the guy who is, you know, going to the Netherlands, might contact you, because that's the focus of his research. He's doing generative research.
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Now, for example, where I finished my PhD in December, and now, for example, I finished totally with this project. I work in another project, but I contact again the anti-trafficking system, and I propose them to have a meeting, organizational meeting, in which I present the result again, and at the end of this meeting, I will present some question in a generative way, and okay, I finished my research in this way. This is the result. So, what do you think about the future about this point? And maybe we create a new narrative, we create a new organizational point and aspect, because my idea is to not stop myself in Veneto, in one region, but also to have a contact with the Dipartimento of Pari Opportunità in Italy, and we create maybe some aspect in a national way. But it's very important also, and today is an opportunity to have a connection with other researcher, thinker, person, organization, and maybe not all in Europe, but in the world. We talk about new practice in a gentle way, also in this field. So it's very important to create this connection. So thank you, Dara, of course.
Yeah.
Of course, if you I was here my mail. If some of you want to write me.
Okay, that's a good idea.
Yes, please write me, send me a mail, and we create a connection. We create some suggestion, new research. I don't know what, and we propose maybe with Taos new reflection, new dialogue. So thank you again, Alex, and this opportunity with Taos. My wonderful place. We share this dialogue, this thinking.
Thank you. Thank you for hosting this important conversation. And again, it's hosted in the Taos Institute Comments, where you can leave comments right under the event, and you can find each other. So feel free to stay in touch that way, and it can continue to be a group discussion or sharing resources, article that are relevant to the conversation. And this was also recorded. It will be available in the comments. It's also posted on YouTube, so you can share the link with anyone you know who might be interested in the conversation. And with that, we wish you a good day, good afternoon, good night, and thank you again for coming.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay,
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.